Non-stop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com. Purple Daily, presented by Surly Brewing Company.
He's always been an offense that utilized the tight end a lot. Looked like Irv Smith was ready for kind of a breakout year. How do you kind of adapt after losing him?
Yeah, disappointed for Irv. Nobody's worked harder than him, and nobody will work harder to get back. He's made of all the right stuff, great teammate, and he'll continue to be a great teammate. But I have confidence in our tight ends behind him. I have confidence in other positions to step up as well.
All right, we definitely need like the BS meter on that Clint Kubiak answer to Matthew Collar's question. Everything's fine. I trust all of our tight ends equally.
He'll still be
a great teammate.
He'll still be a great teammate. What does that have to do with anything?
I'm sure he will be.
Yeah, but I mean, what does that have to do with it?
He'll encourage Gronklin to be stepping up to catch all those passes. I just think it's funny. Like Clint Kubiak definitely went to like media training. Don't ever answer with an honest answer. Just say how great everyone is.
Yep.
Great teammates. We'll just keep working hard. This is Purple Daily. Daily Vikings entertainment presented by Surly Brewing Company, Phil Mackey, Judd Zulgad, Declan Goff. And we want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. If you're watching us on a TCL TV on the YouTube channel, thank you guys. TCL is one of the world's best-selling consumer electronics brands, and they've got a wide array of new TVs delivering the most entertainment with stunning resolution at an affordable cost. Enjoy more of the things you love with TCL. Are you guys ready for comments from YouTube?
Let's do it.
Are you ready for some high and tight fastballs? There's a couple rip jobs in here, but mostly good questions and I think good debates. And
I like the rip jobs.
I think fans are very much split on what this Vikings team can and will do, as evidenced by Mike Saxton's comment. You guys are smoking dope. The Vikings are at best 6-11, leaning more toward 5-12, and Zim is finally gone. Kirk is benched for a QB we acquired during the season. It's rebuild time. Derek Gatz with a comment. Phil is such a homer every time. We all know damn well the Vikings aren't starting 3-0 as I had them in our latest iteration of picking the schedule. I want to answer this real quick first, and then I'll shut up and let you guys disagree with me, because I know you guys are much more panicked than I am, and maybe you'll wind up being right. But I feel like people are way overreacting too far down the line to a handful of preseason games in a bad month of training camp. Like, in terms of, there's been some injuries and things, but like the taste that people have in their mouths is from these 3 preseason games where the Vikings just got either smoked or looked terrible. But they weren't playing starters in the first preseason game. They weren't playing Jefferson, Thielen, or Dalvin Cook really at all. Significant. I mean, Thielen played for a minute, but like those guys weren't playing. Those are the three of the best skill position players in the entire league. And so I just feel like people are looking at yes, are there some depth issues? Yes. Am I saying this is a perfect roster? No, not at all. There are a bunch of questions. Darisaw, left tackle, don't get me wrong. But I think people have gone from before camp, it was, 11, 12 wins. Like, this is an amazing set of starters in this roster. And now people are like completely bailing altogether on this team being competitive. I'm not ready to go that far. I think people need to pump the brakes on overreacting to what we've seen in the preseason. All right. And I've brought up my fair share of gripes with this team, but it's gone too far, is what I'm saying.
Well, first of all, I don't agree with the fact that they're going to win only 5 or 6 games. I think I put them on, I think previously I put them on 10. And when we did this exercise this past week, I think I put them on 9. That being said, I don't think people are freaking out about the 3 preseason games. I think they are freaking out about how training camp went. And the fact that they have seen, and this is where I'll be sports dad and empathize with my children out there. They've seen this movie before. Kirk is not vaxxed. The Vikings aren't lucky in life. Kirk is going to get put in quarantine once or twice. The Darisaw thing, like they literally drafted a plug and play left tackle, and now he can't plug and play. The whole thing with Zim at times in training camp being, not despondent, but sort of pissed off at times at guys. the decision to cut the punter now and not bring him back is almost certainly going to lead to some weird holding thing where Greg Joseph missed a field goal.
They're bringing in a 6-year holder though.
But what I'm saying is people are reacting, and I'm not putting them on 5 or 6 wins, but I think people are reacting to that far more than simply 3 preseason games, because I agree with you. The starters didn't play. Now, I do think Kirk didn't look as good as I would like, but you know what? Come September 12th, that could completely change. But I think their trepidation is far more from what you said when you said it was a bad month of training camp, which is basically the duration of camp. So I empathize with them for that.
All right, Declan, who's more? I'm saying everyone calm down. Judd just poured a couple drops of gas on the fire. Just a couple drops of gas.
I'm patting the kid on the head and saying, you've had this nightmare before. It might be time to take you to a therapist.
Yeah. I definitely agree more with Judd. I mean, I was high on them after the draft. I was high on them after the initial wave of free agents. And I said, you know what, 11 wins seems pretty reasonable. And ever since the shaky preseason and the injuries and the ineffectiveness, I've dialed back that. I think it's more of a probably 9-win team. I think there is some tempered expectations. Now, the best thing about this is if we are wrong and they exceed these expectations, it's just a win-win situation for us because we get egg in our face, which we always love to admit when we're wrong. And 2, the Vikings are successful. But I do think it, to Judd's point, we've seen these movies before. We have been tortured before. It is okay to also have a little bit of second guessing now that the season is less than 10 days away and the things are not going as planned as they were early in the summer.
I don't know if I go as far as saying that the doom and gloom, the worrying about doom and gloom is a self-fulfilling prophecy for this team. I don't think fans who feel doom and gloom on the horizon, I don't think that connects directly with the team performance, although I do think that Minnesota sports teams sense that fans think doom and gloom is on the horizon because it almost always is. But I do think fans don't feel like they deserve greatness. Like there's a certain, there's just a certain malaise for generations of Vikings fans where it's been our identity to be the woe is me fan base. Oh my God, 98. Can you believe Gary Anderson, right? Oh, Brett Favre throwing across his body. Those Super Bowl teams in the 70s coming up short in games they were favored even, right? Like I think we find our identity as Minnesota sports fans in the disgraces and the losses and right? Yes.
Mighty fine day if it is, which I doubt.
And so the minute that some things start to go the wrong way, in the weeks leading up to the season, instead of thinking like if you're a Boston sports fan the last 20 years, you're like, who gives a rat's ass? Once week 1 comes around, then Tommy's gonna throw it down the field, for 20 years. But here it's like, oh my God, oh no, Irv Smith's out, 5-12, like. Mm-hmm. So we got to get away from that to some extent. I understand it. I've lived it. You've all 3 of us have lived it. But I sense it's more like decades of sort of built-in negative experiences leading to the feeling that a lot of fans feel going into week 1, as opposed to like they're actually screwed and going to go 6-11.
Yeah,
that's where I'm at.
But I just feel bad for the fans because it always seems like there's something staring them in the face, reminding them of why they feel like that. So
it's fair.
It's a little bit difficult. If you'll excuse me for a second, the dog is very upset.
Stella's got some concerns, man.
I'm not kidding you. She wants to get up on the bed, but she can't jump, so I have to go put her on the bed. She has now decided to bark at me at 4 a.m. in the morning when she wants to go out, at 7:30 when she wants to be fed. This is the highest maintenance dog you can get.
Well, why don't you go to? I know exactly why she's barking. She's hungry for some pig-approved barbecue. That's what's happening right now, okay? I mean, pig-approved barbecue provides delicious beef brisket, pulled pork spare ribs, yes. Just slather me in barbecue sauce. That sounded creepy. 100% wood-smoked and smoked fresh daily. You can find them in their physical location, 1237 Larpenteur Avenue, or have it delivered. Stop by pigapprovedbarbecue.com. pigapprovedbarbecue.com. I think tailgating season here is prime for some pig-approved barbecue.
And as I told Judd, as a Midwest guy, I have a tough time finding good Midwest barbecue. It's just not something the Midwest is particularly known for when it comes to good barbecue. Pig Approved has completely changed my complexion on the best barbecue around. Judd and I had our face stuffed in it about a month ago when we were doing a show. In fact, I'm kind of upset. I would like to be doing comments from YouTube every Friday with a spare rib and with all this pulled pork just at my disposal, so you can see me eating it and enjoying it as well. But you know,
style.
I get it. Yeah, just keep it coming. Keep it coming.
Also, a shout out to another one of our partners, and thank you guys for we've heard some great things about how you, the audience, are supporting our partners here on this show. Surly, Chill Boys, you name it, and Moon Motorsports too. So thank you, because you help our partners, you help us. It all goes sort of around cyclically. But Moon Motorsports is celebrating 50 years as a family-owned and operated multi-line dealer in Monticello, Minnesota. And you'll find side-by-sides, ATVs, motorcycles, snowmobiles, and 10 of the top brands in the industry. So this is the best and largest inventory selection in the region. Stella, who's a good dog?
Oh, Stella!
Who's a good dog?
Look at Stella.
Who's a good dog?
So check them out, moonmotorsports.com
Stella.
today. All right, Stella can help us with the rest of these comments from YouTube. This is from Blackhawk Crew. So we had a big Sean Mannion discussion on Mackey and Judd. We did a little bit of it on Purple Daily. This might spark another one. Mannion completed 12 of 21 passes for 126 yards and no touchdowns and 2 interceptions the last time he started a game. Tell me how that will be better than Kellen Mond coming into a game as a backup. Judd.
Okay, I'll explain it again. I don't know that it will be, but I don't want to compromise Kellen Mond's development for the sake of 1 or 2 starts. And I don't think it's fair to put him in yet until you are convinced that he is prepared to play. I'm not saying that Mannion somehow magically comes in, and this has been my whole point the whole time. I'm not saying go get a backup who's going to be, going to Canton someday. I'm saying go get a backup who can run the game while you develop Mond. To me, one of the most important things on the Vikings platter, and I'm not talking about for 2021, is developing Mond and seeing, did you get a guy in the 3rd round who, by the way, potentially can be your starting quarterback at some point. And I want to give him every chance to succeed.
Who's a good girl?
Who's a good girl,
Do you want to get
Stella?
down? Do you want to get down now,
I keep going back to, though, because you are your bar for what you want in a Vikings backup quarterback. You've made it very clear that you want someone that can just come in and run the game. Just like Jake Browning very clearly couldn't run the game.
Right.
And I think what the Blackhawk Crew, and I will throw myself into this mix too, are saying, I don't think Sean Mannion can run the game. I know he's been a backup in the NFL for a number of years, and he knows the system on paper, hypothetically, but like the glimpse we got of him in Week 17 against Chicago in 2019 was a disaster.
But
like that dude was not winning you a football game.
But
they only lost by 2, so I'll give him that.
But he's played before, so he knows what he's doing. But more importantly, let's say he bombs completely. Let's say he is as bad as Browning was. I don't care. Like, it hurts in the moment, but it does nothing for. It's not like, oh my God, Sean Mannion bombed. This is a problem. I don't want to expose. I saw Ponder way too quickly exposed to way too much, and he never really recovered from it. And that's always left an impression. So I'm literally, I guess what I'm saying is I'm talking about until you feel completely comfortable with Mond, putting him in bubble wrap and not unveiling him to the public until you feel he's definitely ready to play. I want to give him every chance to succeed. That's my most important thing.
I'll meet you in the middle on this. All right. I agree with you for the first 2 months of the season for sure. Like, I just want Kellen Mond studying how things are done throughout the regular season weeks, how the preparation is done, how the practices are run, leadership, all those things. Keep working on your mechanics. I know they've been trying to fix some certain things. He will not be a finished product at all in 2021. He might not be a finished product, regardless of what his ceiling is, for 4 or 5 more years. So I would definitely, at all costs, keep him off the field for the first 8 weeks. But if you feel like he's having some pretty good practices and he's prepping and he's showing leadership qualities behind the scenes, I'm fine with him being the primary backup if I felt like he gives you a better chance on a whim than Sean Mannion starting in the end of October. I just if Sean Mannion has to play 2 or 3 games this season because Kirk gets hurt, you're screwed.
Yeah.
And you're going to be less screwed with Kellen Mond's skill set, I think, if you give him a few weeks to get acclimated.
again, what I've been trying to say is this: because of COVID and the weird predicament that we're in, you literally could have a Sunday morning where you are told Kirk can't play. And I don't want to go knock on Mond's door and say, "You're getting the start, kid." Like it's totally different to me, Phil, if you've got the entire week to prep. Like if Kirk gets hurt, let's say in October, and you've got a week for Mond to prep and be prepared, it still might not be perfect, but at least then he knows. But if I have to just throw a guy in on a Sunday right now this season,
Yeah.
I'd rather it be Mannion, because the worst thing that happens is he has a terrible day and okay, but it doesn't hurt me at all. It doesn't hurt me long term.
The next one here, comments from YouTube. Derek Vetter says, Judd's write that down predictions are similar to how Zimmer wants his offense to run. None of that crazy stuff, Clint. We need long, sustained drives with 6-yard runs and 12-yard passes. You are last in completion percentage and last with 0 touchdown passes.
Yeah, he's
so
right.
I think
He's
the
right.
conservative offensive approach is probably an accurate
I only have
read
one
here.
thing to say to Sean. Is that right? Sean?
Derek, you were close.
Derek, Sean. I have one thing to say to Derek, Sean. What? Why don't you drop into the Mackie and Judd Wednesday show and watch me swing? Okay, watch me swing. Let's
Yeah,
just
watch
say
us
this.
swing.
So you're telling the
those
Purple Daily
singles.
audience, hey, I save all of my big predictions for our other show,
What I'm
Mackie
saying-
and Judd. You should come over to this show.
What I'm saying is you've got Teddy Ballgame, Rodney Klein Carew,
Okay.
Tony Gwynn, and me. Old school.
The Mount Rushmore.
I don't wear batting gloves either, by the way, and I do hit left-handed.
You and Mark Grace.
Yeah, congrats.
It's probably a reference that only 5 people get, especially on Purple Daily. Robert Centifanti says, Mackie, regarding... Every time I see my name, I feel like they're saying, hey, Mackie.
Mackie, yeah.
You
Mackie,
idiot.
Mackie.
Drink wine coolers.
You drink wine coolers. Mackie, regarding depth concerns, don't you think it's a bit early to say definitively that we have depth issues this year? We haven't played a game yet, and what we see in preseason does not necessarily reflect how good or bad we are. I'm actually more going off of what Zimmer has said. Zimmer is the one that is publicly questioning their depth and flat out saying, hey, there's a couple positions where if we lose a starter, we're in big trouble. Now, there aren't many teams in the NFL that have just amazing depth all throughout. Where like, if you lose an offensive lineman, here's another one. But there are a lot of teams, I think, contending teams that are in a better position to where if they lose Anthony Barr or Eric Kendricks, they're not going down for like a special teams ace to play starting linebacker, right?
Yes.
So can they still do some things about that here? Are there still some players to be signed or traded for? Maybe. But I'm more reacting to what Mike Zimmer is saying. But I will give you this, all right? Especially with like some of these positions, like offensively, it's hard to gauge the offense when Jefferson, Thielen, and Cook aren't playing. And like if Mond is out there as a backup quarterback and he's not throwing to Justin Jefferson, like it'll be a lot easier for him to complete passes to Justin Jefferson than, pick your receiver that got cut in training camp. So I don't know. Like, what do you guys think? I mean, are the depth issues overplayed, or do you feel like it's a legitimate concern that Mike Zimmer has been voicing?
It's a legit concern because that's if we're going to admit or acknowledge that they didn't play the majority of their starters in the exhibition games, so like you can't really judge the start. It's like Jefferson looks terrible. Well, he didn't play. I think the one thing that we can take from those 3 games was a lot of their depth guys weren't very good. Like they played them extensively, which was smart. I mean, they got a long look at a lot of guys that they were trying to have compete for roster spots, and they weren't good. So that's where Mike got it from, and I think, Phil, that's where you get it from in watching the 3 preseason games. And I don't think it's fair to say, well, you can't take that from the preseason games. Yeah, of course you can. So yes, there are some, and you're right to say this. Anthony Barr being out, I think, will hurt them if he can't play in week 1. Well, it would hurt a lot of teams. I just don't know that there's a guy that I really want. Like, I don't see the clear-cut linebacker as a guy who you just plug in there and play. So, I think it's very fair to express concerns about something that we saw for 3 games that didn't look really good.
You got to think about it this way, too. There have been a lot of years in the early Mike Zimmer years of coaching the Vikings and then going back to, like, Leslie Frazier, Brad Childress, where in the second half of a preseason game, Everson Griffin would be out there for, like, 30 snaps. Danielle Hunter would be out there like with the backups as depth. Danielle Hunter as depth because Brian Robinson and Griffin were starting. Or previous to that, when Everson Griffin got drafted, it was Jared Allen and Ray Edwards or whatever, or Brian Robinson who were starting. And like your depth edge rusher was a Ring of Honor guy, you know? And now it's like, all right, who are your depth edge rushers? Well, I guess Everson is back to being a depth edge rusher. So if your starters stay healthy, it's less of a big deal. But it's there have been previous iterations of Mike Zimmer defenses where like the guy coming off the bench to give your starters a breather was Danielle freaking Hunter.
Yeah.
So compare the depth from this year to a few years ago. All right. Skolny says, this is via Twitter, but I see Skolny commenting a lot on our YouTube channel as well, so we're gonna address this one. Gophers lose a big game. It's a moral victory. Vikings do anything short of winning a Super Bowl, and it's complete savagery by you guys. So, first of all, this is about as apples to oranges of a comparison as you can get because the Vikings play in a 32-team league with an equal salary cap and an equal strategic chance for all 32 teams, whether you're in a New York-sized market or a Green Bay-sized market, whether you're in a Tampa Bay-sized market or an LA-sized market. You have an equal chance with equal salary cap, equal resources to go and get whatever players you want, the draft, like everything about the NFL is socialist, right? It's everything has to be equal across the board. College football is the exact opposite. College football is a wild, wild west of recruiting. There are now that money is in play, like some of the bigger schools with NIL contacts, right? So the Gophers competing with Ohio State, which gets like 15 four-star recruits or better every single recruiting cycle, and the Gophers maybe get 2 or 3, right, in a good year. If they can compete with Ohio State, it is a good sign. So I guess I don't really understand how that's even an apples to apples comparison. But
and the Vikings also have, I mean, it's a compliment to them that they're consistently good. And so the expectation is, okay, take good to great. The Gopher, it's not a compliment that we feel pretty good, unfortunately, because I think Skolny's right about a loss to the Buckeyes last night. But the reality is, one, it's fun, and two, the expectations are so low. Like 2019 was unbelievable. Like for that's not fair. For many programs, that would just be like another season. So this is the thing about the Vikings always consistently being good, but rarely, almost never great. We want great because that's the next step. For a team like the Gopher football team or the Wolves, just stepping into being consistently decent would be thrilling. That's why I think that we have. I mean, the fact that we savage the Vikings is actually a compliment to the Vikings.
Do we savage the Vikings? Like we hold the Vikings to a high. It's a compliment to the franchise. We hold them to a high standard.
We expect the fact that we even talk about. We think that they can win a Super Bowl someday, and we want them. Like I am not going on a show and saying, you know what? I think the Gophers can go to a national championship game before I die. There's no chance. I could die tomorrow.
Dude,
I could
honestly,
die in 30 years. There's no chance they're in a national championship game.
The season they had 2 years ago was, I'm like, I want them to keep winning games and stuff, but what they did 2 years ago, beating Penn State, undefeated Penn State, hosting a game day, beating Auburn on New Year's Day, like, I kind of got my fix for 10 years. You know, I'm not going to be super mad at the Gophers now because they aren't going to compete with Alabama, Ohio State, like the recruiting and everything. Yeah.
But what you're saying is incredibly condescending, and I don't disagree with you. Like you literally just said, I got my fix for 10 years because it was a fun year.
Yeah, because I have much lower expectations for that program.
But I mean, it's like if you have a kid who can go to Harvard and then one who can go to a JUCO, you ain't going to treat them the same.
Yeah. Before we get to the last couple comments here, speaking of Harvard, I think Surly Brewing Company might be the Harvard of local beers. That's just my take.
Let's see. Hold on a second. What should I do? It's Saturday. It's Saturday, so it's not really a work day. Hold on. Let me
wow. I just want you guys to know that we're actually recording this on a work day, just so everyone.
Okay, well, you know what? You just ruined it for everybody.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay. You're from home, If
you're listening,
at work, I can't do that.
If you're listening, I will explain. If you're watching, well, it's self-explanatory.
Pour it in there next to your mic.
Surly
Let's hear that
Furious
audio.
IPA, and you know what? I am going to work right now. If we have just a second on my pour, because I feel like my pours have been off. I
Yeah.
don't feel like I'm doing a good job of pouring.
You
So
really gotta.
hold on. Wait.
Okay.
Wait for it.
Oh yeah.
There
How
it
did that
is,
sound?
right there.
Yeah. Pretty
The
good.
Furious has
All
been
right.
is
Let's
about
hear
to
it.
be unleashed.
It's a hoppy beer. I'm curious here.
I know it's a tough pour. So you got to go sideways with the glass, but
Slowly.
slowly. And I have no patience.
I heard one time that you're actually from a high level brewing source that you're actually supposed to pour it down the middle, get the foam, and trap the flavor in the foam.
You are, but I'm going to start to drink this right now.
Sure.
And so I don't want to do that.
Actually, you were there for the same high level source.
Yes.
You were there when we had that
There
conversation.
we go.
How's that?
That's a good
Beautiful.
pour.
That's
Love
the
it.
pour. That's
Nice
the
work.
patience that I use when I pour what's almost like a child to me, a can of Surly Furious IPA. Crack open a Surly Furious like Judd just did. It's a Saturday. Enjoy the IPA that revolutionized Minnesota craft beer. Don't settle. Get Surly. And now I drink.
Patrick Rongich chimes in. If the Vikings extend Kirk Cousins, I will never watch another snap of Minnesota Vikings football ever again. 33 years in as a fan, and I would be done. That's an overreaction, dude. I mean, he is one of the 15, 16 best quarterbacks in the world. You know, I would prefer if he doesn't sort of step up in certain situations this year that they move on as well. But I'm willing to give Kirk, listen, we're about to enter week 1. I think all the criticisms are on the table. His track record's all on the table. Here's another season. You can improve on it. I'm willing to be open-minded going into the season, and let's see what Kirk can do here.
And when Kirk does leave, part of the book written on him is going to be a little bit different from my viewpoint, because I still do appreciate the signing of Kirk Cousins and the shot that they took.
It's a shot that you should be willing to take.
Like we don't talk about that a lot now, but when it's all said and done, they had a quarterback who had a great year who was a backup. And they didn't go, we got to bring back Case Keenum, which was a smart move. And they went out and signed probably the biggest quarterback fish on the market. So my revisionist history of this whole thing will be different when we get back to that chapter. That's a very important, and much like with Suter, Parisi, it might not work out, but we really can't. We're not in a position to criticize big, bold moves when we complain constantly about lack of big, bold moves.
You're going to whiff on some of them, but like the fact that the front office and the ownership are open to taking big shots and swings in trades and free agency, that's a culture that you want to continue to water and fertilize. So I'm with you on that one. I mean, they did sign him to win a Super Bowl, to go from 13-3 and doorstep to winning a Super Bowl, and they've come really nowhere close in the 3 years. Is it all his fault? No. But the move was made as a franchise to win a Super Bowl, and so, but he's got another 2 years left on the contract. And then Sam McCormick says Oli Udoh is his Mr. Mankato this year in his book. I think I'm going KJ Osborne. Oli Udoh did rise up and become the starter, but it's hard to flash as a right guard.
Right.
KJ Osborne flashed a few times. Right?
And he's also improved a lot. Mm-hmm. As a receiver, he's a different player.
Smith Zed had a couple nice little games and returns.
Yep, and I like him. He's going to bring some speed.
But KJ Osborne may have elevated himself to the number 3 wide receiver slot here.
Yes.
And with Irv Smith out, he's probably going to get some run. So he went from being kind of a borderline roster guy to being like the 3rd wide receiver in one camp.
Mm-hmm. I like it. I agree.
Mm-hmm. Cool. All right, those are comments from YouTube here on Purple Daily. Well, we've been doing it for a half hour.
I still got a lot of Sterling.
Everyone's cool on my dating advice. Or no comments on that.
You know what? I got to be honest. Disappointed Minnesota sports fan has been commenting every single day. Day 3 of me asking Declan for dating advice on Purple Daily YouTube channel. Day 4. So
Day 5,
I just
Day 6.
It's been kind of a week for you. So I didn't know if you wanted to.
What's the advice that we're looking for?
What's your advice
from Declan?
What do I want to say here? I would say make sure you're comfortable. Just make sure you're comfortable.
You know what I would say? If you're going to enter the dating realm, risk management is your friend. And that's where Federated Mutual Insurance Company can help you. Maybe not as much in business, but for sure, or maybe not as much in dating, but for sure in business. So when it comes to risk management, protecting your business and protecting your employees and keeping everyone safe, federatedinsurance.com has a ton of great tools and information and people you can talk to. Find a full list of industries Federated protects at federatedinsurance.com. Remember, at Federated, it's our business to protect yours.
Do you know what's going to make that first date go great? A couple Surlys.
Little
All
Surly?
right, this show has jumped the
All right.
shark today. All right.
Okay.
All right, we got to go.
We
We'll
gotta
see you
go.
guys later. This is Purple Daily Vikings Entertainment.